On this episode, I've got a special guest. This guy is a closet artist, and if you want to be better at dressing closets, you need to heed his words.
Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you plugged into success. So grab your tools, turn up the volume, and let's talk cabling.
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, estimators, project managers, all ICT personnel, and even customers. We're connecting at the human level so that we could connect the world. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content's being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those couple little steps helps us break the algorithm so we get this information out to more people so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of more people in the ICT industry. Thursday nights, 6 p.m., after hours live with Chuck Bowser, RCDD, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD your questions on career path, installation, certification, estimation, project management. It's a wide open book for 30 minutes. But I hear you now, but Chuck, I'm driving home at that time. I can't be watching a video in my truck because my company will fire me. They're recorded. Go to letstalkcabling.com. All of the episodes are available there, both the podcast and the after hours lives. Also, last thing, if you're not already a supporter of this channel, would you mind considering going to Patreon or one of our Amazon links and help support the channel? This content is free. It will always remain free, but it does cost money to run it, so we would appreciate a little bit of that offset. As I mentioned earlier, today's guest is a special guest. I'm meeting him for the first time, but I've been an avid follower of this gentleman for a while on TikTok. Sean, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, Chuck. Good to finally talk to you.
Same here, man. Same here. So for those who don't know Sean Rep on TikTok and Instagram. He loves posting videos of the closets that he built out. You know, as a 40-year veteran of the ICT community, I've seen some really good work, and rarely have I ever seen any as good as what Sean does. So I'm bringing Sean on to talk about his processes and to how he dresses his closets. Just kind of give you an idea, he's got almost 12,000 followers on Instagram and over 100,000 on TikTok. So he's got some social clout. And he's being low key about it. I already see him in the camera being low key. Well, what, me? I'm the same way. I really am. So the first question I have for you is just kind of give us a brief work history, Sean, of how you got in communications and how long you've been doing this.
So I'll go back to the beginning. Growing up, we had a family friend who, there's a company called Lucent Technologies. I don't know if you've heard of them. They were big back in the late 90s. He was a operations manager for the branch out of Wichita, Kansas. And, he'd always said, as soon as I turn 18, if I needed a job, you could, get my foot in the door. So I 2 weeks before I turn 18, I realized I don't have a plan. So I figured I'd give it a shot. Call him up. The week after I turned 18, he was like, said that there could possibly be an opening in Kansas City. So I go up to interview for that. End up getting a job. I was the second to the last people that they hired in Kansas City. This was in 2000, early 2000, kind of before the crash. So them not having a lot of work going on, they sent me to Installer 1 course in Chicago. That was a 4-week-long course. Came back to Kansas City. They didn't have anything for me to do, so they sent me to Installer 2. And so it was kind of a good opportunity and a bad opportunity, just because I wasn't able to get a lot of hands-on work out in the field, but I was getting a lot of training. Mostly with working in COs, doing the high pair count, feeder, doing 1,200 pairs. splicing and doing all that. And, just kind of click. I'm not real book smart, but I'm good with colors, so it kind of seemed to work out. Anyways, then I was supposed to be in. I was scheduled to go to Queens, New York. I was supposed to be there September 1st, 2011. I got put off 2 weeks, and then what happened on September 11th. So that ended up getting canceled. They laid everybody off, or 50% of the workforce in Kansas City. So I got laid off. No actual field experience, but lots of training. Um, so then I start looking for, I knew I like doing cabling, so I looked for structured cabling company. Found one here in Kansas City, and yeah, rest is history.
It makes sense now that you say that you had central office experience, because I see a lot of similarities the way you dress cable to the way that central offices are dressed out. So that makes a lot of sense now. I'm starting to see the picture.
Yep, I started out with wax string. That's how I knew. That's how I started. So,
What's your favorite stitch?
the Kansas City, of course.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course. I was always a big fan of the Chicago, but
yeah,
like,
Chicago, Kansas City.
yep, yep, very cool. So the process for dressing out a closet starts taking place long before you get the cables inside the closet. All right, there's some planning and stuff. What steps do you go through with your end product in mind?
Well, I mean, every job, every job varies. It depends on the size of the job. Um, yeah, some customers want different color cable for different devices. Some of them are large, some of them are small. I typically get stuck, or I wouldn't say stuck. I like doing the larger projects. So, um, for me, it's all prepping the cable. Setting up. I try to get as many cables into a pole. I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but I like to do bundles of 12. So if I can maximize my bundle layout, it's a lot less separating in the closet um, whenever it gets to that point. So, um, yeah, separating and just prepping. That's my big thing. It makes closet work go so much quicker.
So when you're looking at the floor plans, because you're trying to keep them in bundles of 12, I guess you look at your floor plans and try to pick which 12 are going to be closest together and try to maximize your pulls that way. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I mean, I always try to make my as builts as clean as possible. That way, my numbers are clockwise. Try to keep them all in orderly fashion, but also try to keep in mind my whole setups as I'm labeling it. Yeah.
So there may be people out there who may not know what as builts mean. So you hear the terms as built and red lines in our industry, right? So as built is actually how you're running the cable and the numbers and the drops and where they go. Red lines also indicate like the pathways of where the cables are going to go down the hallways. Does that sound about the same for you?
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I got to ask you a question. Tie wraps or Velcro?
uh, hmm, Velcro always.
I do know the answer because I see your videos all the time. I already know what your answer is.
I don't even have tie wraps on my truck.
One of my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeves is when someone doesn't cut the tie wraps flush,
Yeah.
and you pull a cable and you get all torn up.
Yeah.
So you're really good at doing waterfalls, right? At least that's what we call them where I came from, waterfalls.
Yep.
You call it something different in Kansas City?
Nope. Waterfall or cable dropouts.
Exactly. So for those who may not know what a waterfall is, when a bundle comes out of the wall from like the sleeve, it looks like a hose, and you should be able to put your finger in any one of them cables and trace that thing all the way down, all the way to the patch panel. And it shouldn't dive underneath any other cables. You shouldn't have anything. It's a work of art. Now, you do a really good job with yours. What steps or tools do you use to get your beautiful waterfalls?
Patience. Um, no, like I said, I like to do bundles of 12, and I actually dress the bundles of 12 individually and put them into a group of 4 bundles to make 48. So I have 4 groups of 12. and I dress those all four individually and go right behind it with you know, a bundle of 48. And I usually don't go too far, especially whenever I'm coming up on a bend. So as I'm going around that bend, I keep it nice and tight and just kind of let it all stick together and flow through that bend. And, kind of twisting the cable back and forth as I go, just to kind of keep them in line and in order. I find.
A quick word from the folks who help make this show possible. Are you ready to boost your fiber game? Then check out Go Far Fiber Training School, where you'll learn from the best. Lee Renfro, RCDD, Bixie Tech, and 3-time winner of the Bixie Cable Skills Challenge himself. Whether you're pulling your first strand or prepping for certification, Go Far delivers hands-on, real-world training that gets you job site ready. Don't just go far. Lee will take you all the way. Sign up today and start leveling up your career. Visit GoFar on LinkedIn or click on the link in the description below.
You do it all by hand? You don't use the cable comb?
No, I don't. I'm not dissing the comb. I've just never tried it. And it kind of seemed like a longer process to me. And that might sound silly. And I'm almost afraid maybe I'll try it and like it. So I've never tried it.
I've never tried the cable comb either myself. I've always done it by hand. And I'll be the first to admit, my waterfalls don't look anywhere near as good as yours. Yours are. I'm going to change it. I hate the term cable porn. I hate that. So I'm going to coin a new one, and I'm going to call you a closet artist.
Okay. I like that better.
I just don't like that term cable porn. That the majority of your videos show copper cabling, copper, dressing out stuff. Do you do fiber?
Yes, I do. I actually like doing fiber. But our company's kind of set up. We have a designated fiber guy. We do quite a bit of fiber, and we always kind of, fiber's his priority. So we always try to keep him busy. Now, some of my projects, if he's busy, I'll jump in and do the fiber, or, if there's not much fiber to do, I'll jump in and do that. But, I usually kind of an acting foreman on all these projects too. So I'm kind of limited on, how much and what I can do usually as far as time restraints go.
Which is your favorite, copper or fiber? Which you'd like to do more?
I'd have to go with copper. Yeah. I mean, I would rather splice fiber than punch down copper, but I like dressing copper more than, tinkering with fiber. If that makes sense.
So when you're dressing out the cables, does it soothe your inner soul? Does it soothe the OCD in you?
As crazy as that sounds, it really does. I know a lot of people say that it would make them go crazy, but, and there's times, it seems like it gets tedious, but I've found, podcasts, music and stuff really kind of help you get your mind off of that and just kind of make it go smoother and fly by faster, I guess.
I know one really good podcast you can listen to while you're dressing out.
Oh yeah, I've listened to a few.
Not that I can't name it, but it is like right there. Yeah. So if you have an apprentice working for you, right, brand spanking new guy, he's only been pulling, or girl, doesn't have to be a guy, and they've only been pulling cable, and they've expressed an interest on learning how to dress cables as good as you, right? What steps would you go through in teaching that apprentice on how to be a water expert, a closet artist?
I knew you were gonna ask me a hard question. Um, the hardest part is just finding somebody that wants to learn, and I guess has the desire to actually take the time and do it. Um, once, especially there's some outfits out there that they do work all over the country, and I've noticed that they can it seems like they have a bigger pool to pull from. They can actually find some of these people that this is what they want to do, and they want to learn, they want to get into the industry. But it's been really hard to find that, at least here locally. Um, but I guess the few that I have found that have wanted to learn is just, spending time showing them the techniques that I learned. And, I never push on them that they have to do it my way. It's what works for me, but I've seen other people take it and do it a different way and make it work for them. It doesn't for me, but just, let them figure out what works best for them. And, if just guide them. If I think it's a crazy idea, I'll let them know. But I mean, if it's something that might work for them, good for them.
I think the two biggest keys, and you already hit on one of them, is patience. You've got to have patience, right? If you're one of those people who just gets frustrated over the little thing, dressing out of clouds is not for you. You just go out, terminate the station side, put on crawl underneath the desk and listen to tunes while you're doing it, right? Patience is definitely one of them. And then I think the second one is you have to have an OCD nature. You just do. I drive my wife crazy because we'll go to like Chili's. Chili's has the tables with the squares. I put my coaster perfectly inside of the square.
Yep.
And then if she messes with it, I got to put it back. Closet dressing, some people might call it attention to detail. Yeah, I call it OCD.
I wouldn't say I have OCD. I'm just okay. At work, yeah, but I mean at home, in general, I'm not nearly as clean at home as I am at work.
So let me ask you this: if you could go back to and talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself now that you have your experience?
Get on social media. There's a lot of resources. And it's mind blowing. Some of this, working with Blake and some of the stuff that he's doing in the Slack group and stuff. I really wish I had access to a lot of that. I feel like I would have gotten so much further, so much faster. And I mean, not to date myself, but it wasn't completely my fault because, that a lot of that wasn't in existence yet 20 years ago. But, 10 years ago, I really wish I would have gotten more involved.
So you're obviously on social media a lot, right?
Oh,
Who's your
yeah, of course.
favorite? Who's your favorite TikTok artist? I know you've got to be watching people dressing out closets and stuff. Who's your favorite?
Well, I mean, let's talk cabling is good.
Wasn't looking for a compliment.
Oh,
I don't dress out closets on my TikToks.
I mean, is there? I guess I haven't really found it.
Something's out there. All Green Lights is one of
Okay,
them.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That
And then there's the other one, the girl, Geek Talk,
right.
Geek IT Talk or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think her name off the top of my head. She's gonna kill me too when I get here.
She's pretty new, right? I've just recently come across her.
Yeah, I don't know how much experience she has, and
Well, I think she has a lot of experience. I just now came across her, but yeah, I've been pretty impressed. For her IT too. Chris is, I've actually shadowed Chris on a project once, and it was a lot of fun.
so you mentioned Low Voltage Nation and Blake. How long have you been following them or in their social media circles?
Well, that's like I was telling you earlier. That's kind of how it all started for me. I found out about Low Voltage Nation probably about a year and a half ago, and yeah, it's kind of opened some doors for me.
Yeah, because Blake had just posted on social media, or no, it was a Slack channel, I think. Welcome, Sean Rep. I'm like, first I thought you'd been in, so I thought you're already in Low Voltage Nation for a while and stuff. And I was like, hey, I know that guy.
And to be honest, I didn't even. I mean, I've heard him talk about the Slack group, but I didn't know how it worked. It was. I never. Yeah, that was new for me. The Slack group. As far as I'd been following and posting on the Facebook group for about a year.
What do you think is the most important trait that an ICT installer could have to make them successful?
Attention to detail. That's kind of my pet peeve. It doesn't have to be obsessive compulsive or anything, but just the little things. And people that ask me uh, about dressing closets, just want advice. It's for me, it's just the little details like the spacing of your Velcro, the the tails of the Velcro tucked in so they're visible. Those two things I feel like can go a long ways, even if it's not pinstripe. I mean, it's just the little details like that. Um, so and then don't overthink. I mean, that may not go hand in hand, but I find a lot of these bigger projects, sometimes some of the guys I work with, they like to overthink things. You know, I found it usually works itself out. You waste half a day just overthinking something and then wishing you did it a different way.
Let's take a short break. Are you trying to reach the technicians, project managers, and decision makers of the ICT industry? Then why aren't you advertising on Let's Talk Cabling? With over 150,000 impressions a month across podcasts, YouTube, and social media, this isn't just a show, it's the go-to resource for the low voltage industry. We spotlight the tools, training, and technology shaping the future of structured cabling, and your brand could be front and center. Don't just get noticed, get trusted. Email Chuck at advertising@letstalkcabling.com and let's connect your brand to the right audience today.
Yeah, I call that analysis paralysis. Some people will think about, and I have a mentor, and he's listening right now, and I'm talking about you. He will think about 45 ways of doing something.
Yeah.
I tell him, just make a decision and go. Quit analyzing. At some point, you got to jump off the fence.
Yep.
Got to jump off the fence. And the attention to detail is so key because when you're on a project, because I don't know what size crews you generally working with, but I've worked with different size crews, but a lot of times it's just like me and maybe 2 or 3 other people. And usually 1 or 2 people's dressed in the closet and the other techs are out there terminating, I don't know, a floor. And you got to trust them guys out on the floor because they're going from jack to jack to jack to jack. And if just 10% of them are wired wrong, that means you got to go back and fix them after you've terminated and tested them. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we used to do is the guys who are terminating out in the field, I always told them to put their initials on the back side of the faceplate. Do you use the same kind of a tip?
We have done that before, usually, working with a new crew, trying to figure guys out. Yeah, that I thought it was a bad idea at first, but it actually really ended up figuring out, who the go-to guy was. And then we would see who could go the longest without having a single fail. And I actually got teamed up with a pretty good kid. We were doing a big project in Springfield, pre-cabling these schools, and we would go like 3 schools without having a single fail. I mean, we just became so competitive at it, and trying to make ourselves faster. That it was a fun little game.
Yeah, my brother and I used to do that. We used to work together for many, many years. And it's funny because we knew each other so well. And this is not because we were brothers, because we worked so long together. When we get to the job site, as we're unloading the truck, I'd say, "Are you dressing the closet or am I dressing the closet?" This is before we pulled the first cable.
Yep.
And once we've established that, I knew what I had to do. He knew what he had to do. We didn't have to communicate anything about the job. Now, we talked all day long. We talked about how our sister's doing and how about them Redskins and all that other fun stuff, but never a thing about the job because we knew we worked so well as a team. And so communication really, really comes into play there. Now, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about your social media stuff because I know that my little 1,300 followers is not going to make a dent to yours, but if you're following me, you need to be following Sean because I'm telling you, he does some quality work. How did you get into social media? What inspired you?
Well, like I said, it kind of just became a artistic outlet, I guess, for me. Just messing around on some of these apps. I actually do all these videos with my phone, with my iPhone. And so TikTok, I was messing around and realized that they actually had a pretty cool, app where you could edit videos. And so I don't use it anymore, but um, at least their app. But it that's kind of what started it. I just started messing around on there, and yeah, I accidentally posted one day, and the rest is history.
There you go. Do you have a background in photography and videography, or is this just something you just are doing?
No, I mean I've always kind of messed around making videos for the family and stuff, Facebook stuff like that. But yeah, I got I figured you know seeing some of the work on low voltage nation, um, decided to just kind of mess around with it. And like I said, I accidentally posted one, and it got like 100,000 views the first 200,000 views the first day. And I didn't even realize it because I didn't know how the app worked. And I went to open it one day, and I was like, "What's all this?" And come to find out, it was about my video, and I was kind of inspired. So
Very cool. The
yep.
so you mentioned a lot of people say, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, "What camera gear do you use?" And, we have a photography business, so I have some really good cameras, but I don't use them for my vlogging stuff because I find the simpler the better, right? You mentioned your iPhone. I do a lot of my stuff with iPhones. Right now, I'm recording this with a webcam, but like example, when I did all the stuff I filmed last week at the Bixie conference, that was all done on my iPhone, and it just makes it a lot easier. I use CapCut to edit my stuff inside my videos. Do you use any kind of editor when you film your stuff?
I use CapCut. Yeah. I use there's another one, and of course I can't think of the name right now. But so I use it a lot for some of my filters that CapCut doesn't have. But so between the two, CapCut's usually my main one.
Yeah, CapCut. I think I just learned about CapCut through you and Blake. Yeah, Blake mentioned it on the Slack channel. I was like, "Wait, what? What's that?" And then I downloaded and I process most of my stuff through CapCut now. Because it's a lot easier. It gives you more options and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What's the next big challenge, a big hurdle that you want to achieve?
Um we are we just started a big project last week. We got 1.9 million foot of Cat 6 slated for this project. It's got 19 IDFs and 2 MBFs. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to keep me busy for the next year.
I was gonna say at least for the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we're doing we're doing all the fiber, and they have a signal cabling backbone, some kind of some specialty stuff going on there that'll be fun to get into.
I definitely look forward to seeing pictures from that. Let me ask you this, what's the next big career step for you? What do you, because I know you probably don't want to, do you want to just be a closet artist your entire life? And that's fine if you do, because there are some people that are really good at it. But what's your next big goal career-wise?
I've had so many offers to, be a project manager and, all that. I've I've done it. I want to be working in the field. I like working in the field. Um, so no, I'm really happy where I'm at. Yeah, just doing what I'm doing. Meeting great people, and just trying to do better on each job.
Yeah, I miss that too. I remember when I was in the field, I couldn't wait to become a project manager. And then I became a project manager. And all I wanted to do was going back to being in the field again.
Yep. Nope. That was the goal to reach, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, and I just hated it. I just watch project managing these jobs. I just, instead of watching people do it, I just wanted to do it myself, and I was just miserable. So that's kind of why I like doing the bigger jobs. I can kind of have the best of both worlds. I can kind of manage the big project and have my hands on it at the same time.
Yeah, that is the best of both worlds. And that's a beautiful thing. It's one of the things I really like about the ICT industry is if you don't like your current work environment, wait a couple weeks. You'll be on a new job somewhere else, except for that big one you're doing. You're going to be there for a couple weeks.
Yep, it'll be well.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Any departing words of wisdom? Where can people find you on TikTok, Instagram?
It's pretty easy. Just Sean Rep. I'm not, my cable skills might be creative, but as far as coming up with a creative name, so just my name, Sean Rep, on Instagram and TikTok.
We must be from the same school because mine's the same way. My TikTok is my name.
Yeah.
I've never been good at coming up with fake names. And why come up with a fake name? I am who I am, and
Right. Yeah.
I appreciate you being on the show, and look forward. Make sure you send us some pictures of that new project when you start dressing out cable. Because I'm telling you, you are a closet artist.
You will probably see some.
Sounds good. Anytime, everybody. Knowledge is power.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's talk cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.